Let's spice up this dirt wire hoodie. First step, which I've already begun, is seam ripping off both of the sleeves, the hood, and I just need to finish seam ripping the pocket off. I also seam ripped the little cuffs at the bottom of the sleeves off of the sleeves, and I seam ripped one of the sleeves so that it is flat, just so it's a little bit easier. And I'm gonna replace all the parts that I seam ripped off with this blanket, and so I'm just going to lay the parts out on the blanket, trying to figure out exactly where the graphics I want on like the different pieces. Once I figured out the placement of everything, I traced each piece and cut it out, cutting about 1/4 of an inch away from the piece of fabric, which is the seam allowance. Okay, now with all of the pieces cut out, I am pseudo serging the edges so that they don't fray, since this is a woven material. And to do that, I do a zigzag stitch where one side of it hits the fabric and the other goes off the side of the fabric, which then makes the thread wrap around the side of the fabric, which keeps it from fraying. Okay, so the pocket is obviously one flat shape. The sleeve, it doesn't seem like a flat shape whenever it's sewn together, but whenever you seam rip this line, it is a flat shape. But hoods, there's no way to cut out the whole thing as one flat shape. And so I folded it in half and cut out 2 pieces like this. So now I'm gonna line up these 2 pieces together and sew them from the top of the hood down to the base of the neck, not connecting them right here because that's where your head goes. Okay, now I'm gonna take the pocket and hem the edges of the opening where it won't be sewn down. Now with these edges hemmed, I'm gonna pin it back on the sweatshirt, and I will fold it down here whenever I'm pinning and fold it on the sides as well. I'm not worried about the bottom because that will be in the like waistband part. I'm gonna take the pieces that I cut out for the sleeves and take them from being flat to putting the shape back in them. So I'm going to fold them in half and sew from the armpit down to the wrist. Once it's sewn together, I'm taking it right side out and taking the little cuff inside out and putting it around the end of the sleeve. And then I'm gonna stretch the cuff so that the 2 line up and sew those together. And I took off this part of my machine so that I could put it right on there so that it's easy to sew in a circle. Okay, now I'm adding the sleeves back in. This hoodie is kind of weird where the sleeves go all the way up to the neck, like the hood will attach to the end of the sleeve, whereas normally sleeves are down further. So the way that I'm attaching this one is I'm taking a sweatshirt and matching up the armpit with the armpit of the sleeve and putting those together, and then pinning this up to the neck on both sides and then sewing it. A normal sleeve, what I usually do, turn the hoodie inside out, have the sleeve right side out and put it inside that hole. And then again, line up the armpit seams together right here and then pin it into that hole and sew it in place. All right, we have 2 sleeves. Now for the hood, sweatshirt's right side out. Gonna flip the hood inside out. Gonna match up the center seam of the back of the hood with the center back of the hoodie, and then I'll work my way pinning it towards the front. Last step, I cut off some of the fringe from the blanket and I'm gonna sew it along the waistband of the hoodie. And here she is all jazzed up, and I actually forgot to tell you about my favorite part. Here's the back. We weren't sure if we were gonna do the skeleton on the back because I might have saved it for another project, but I'm so glad I added it. Also, can we take a moment to appreciate how well I lined up the 2 halves of the hood, that the rose is perfect? Amazing.